I'm Misty, 27 years old. After graduating from a vocational school, I now work as a nurse in a surgical ward. Every day is busy. I started dating Ken, who's the same age as me, through a friend from vocational school who works in the same field. Kent is a doctor at a cosmetic clinic. Despite our busy schedules, we went on dates and got engaged after 2 years of being together. You might think that sounds smoothly perfect, but life isn't always so straightforward. I painfully realized this during an incident that occurred when Ken and I went to his parents' home for a family meeting. My family has a tradition of being doctors. Kent continued. Of course, his house was large too. Being a designated heir to a medical family isn't something you just decide to become. Generation after generation, this meant clearing the hurdle of graduating from medical school. Impressive! And to maintain this legacy, their family must be very dedicated to education. This strictness was evident from the polished entrance hall mirror and the vase on the shoe rack, filled with meticulously cared for Casablanca lilies. When we were shown to the living room, we were offered coffee and sweets. I was told the china was Wedgwood, the coffee black ivory, and the sweets Godiva. I only recognized Godiva. I had never heard of black ivory, and I couldn't immediately identify Wedgwood. So, Misty, you're a nurse at Yale New Haven Hospital, the largest in Connecticut, aren't you? Ken's mom then asked. She had that quintessential doctor's wife air about her. Yes, I replied nervously. Are you a registered nurse by chance? I'm actually a licensed practical nurse. I was surprised to be asked that. Maybe it's a concern in a doctor's family. But it seemed that distinction was an important factor in Ken's home. This is troubling, she said, aligning with Ken's dad, who also chimed in. Indeed, quite troubling. Meanwhile, I tentatively asked, is there a problem? I asked, making a tentative inquiry. As a practical nurse, I'm not allowed to perform medical procedures without a doctor's orders, unlike a registered nurse. However, since I don't work at Ken's family clinic, it didn't seem like they were concerned about staffing issues. Then, Ken's parents began to say something quite peculiar. Being a practical nurse, this salary isn't that high, is it? That means you'll have to lower your standard of living. And genetically speaking, whether you can bear children to continue this family line. They started saying things like that. Well, think it over carefully. They gave a softly negative response typical of an upper-class family, and we left Ken's house. They opposed us more than I thought they would. I frowned in the car, driving back to my place after leaving Ken's house. But at this point, having been together for 2 years, I thought things would work out somehow. After all, things in life often don't go smoothly. That was the extent of my thoughts. That's true, but they didn't completely oppose us, right? He had said that too. Encouraged by his words, I thought it would be okay to take my time to gain acceptance. However, I would soon learn just how naive this idea was. 2 weeks later, I was called out by Kent. What's going on? I arrived at the cafe where I was called to, thinking it was just our usual rendezvous. But there was someone else there. And that person was... Kara? To my surprise, it was my senior. Why was Kara here? The story unfolded like this. After that day, Ken's dad had suggested to Ken, it's difficult to lower our standard of living. Especially when gathering with doctor colleagues, having a child who's a practical nurse would be educationally inferior. It's harsh, but in the medical world, that's considered the bottom. This creates a disparity. Ultimately, it would make both you, Misty, and Kent unhappy. And he has suggested to Kent. Misty was at Yale New Haven Hospital, right? I know some doctors there. I'll introduce you to someone suitable for marriage. It seems he said to Kent. And the person he introduced was surprisingly my senior. Kara at 32 was older than both Kent and me, but she had indeed graduated from a prestigious university's nursing program, and was successfully climbing the ladder as a registered nurse in a managerial position. So I thought about it. Like Dad said, as a practical nurse, you'll never make it to a managerial position. And financially, it's poverty, right? And you probably wouldn't fit in with an elite family. That would make us both unhappy. Dad introduced Kara, and to be honest, you can't beat Kara. Not in brains, income, or even looks. Caught off guard by the conversation they had clearly prepared for, my brain struggled to keep up. Unhappiness? Being a practical nurse equated to unhappiness. The words practical nurse and unhappiness raced through my mind. Then I turned my eyes to Kara in front of me. Kara was beautiful. She had long limbs and a great figure. She smiled seductively. Sorry, I took him. All I could do was hang my head. No, it's my shortcomings. Why? Why did it have to end like this? We had been dating for 2 years. We never even had a single fight. I learned how to cook, and I loved him so much. Tears fell like rain onto my skirt. Kent said, Well, that settles it. Let's all stay friends. Guess it's true, you can't get married with a bottom-tier job. He summed it up with a sense of triumph. I'm engaged. The ring is from Harry Winston. Wow, that's amazing. Kara was showing off her ring. Nurses around her age were excitedly admiring it, saying how wonderful it was. I passed by them silently. That ring, Kent had given it to her. All I felt was emptiness. I had just returned my engagement ring. Even though the brand was different, just days after returning mine, someone else, my direct singer, was wearing his engagement ring. There was nothing more disheartening than this. But seriously, who shows off like that? Kara's too much. She has no consideration or restraint towards you, which really makes me question her as a person. Hannah, a colleague who knew the situation, frowned and said, She may be beautiful, but she thinks of practical nurses as slaves, and she acts all high and mighty about her promising future. I really can't stand her. You're 100 times cuter in my eyes. Just think of him as a guy with no taste. Hannah comforted me. In reality, Kara did look down on practical nurses and was too arrogant as a senior, disliked by her juniors. I usually kept my distance from her. But today, Kara deliberately came over to me. The wedding is set for June. I'm inviting all the nurses from our department. Despite everything, I hope you can attend, Misty. Kara said that to me. I was speechless. I think anyone in my position would have reacted the same way. Don't worry, I will mention in the wedding bio that the groom dumped you for me. Kara said this loudly. At that moment, it was clear to everyone that Ken had left me for Kara. But I'm inviting all the nurses from our department, so please come, she emphasized. I stood there stunned. Hannah was fuming next to me, but even Hannah's voice seemed distant to my ears. Can you believe this kind of harassment? Hannah was indignant and hit a nearby pillar with a bang. Well, but it can't be helped. That's right, it can't be helped. Kent chose Kara over me. That's all there is to it. I tried to convince myself of that, but my emotions, the reality, couldn't keep up. As long as I'm here, I'll keep hearing about Kent, and eventually Kara will become the head nurse. I was overworked and felt utterly miserable. In between work, I pursued job opportunities. It was less about wanting a new job and more about trying to sever ties with the past. Looking back, it feels like I was just escaping reality. Fortunately, there was a shortage of nurses, so I quickly found a new job. I decided to resign before the wedding, so I didn't have to attend it after all. But the rumors spread through the ward, and of course to the patients. Nurse, are you leaving? A newly admitted child asked me, looking sad. You encouraged me so much when I was admitted with severe injuries. A middle school girl hospitalized with severe facial injuries from a traffic accident sadly held my hand. But we will meet again, if you live with hope, because this world is connected. I held her hand back. Although I said that, I was genuinely concerned about her. But since she was admitted after I had submitted my resignation, I couldn't postpone it. Hannah had organized a departmental farewell party and also a smaller, private one for us. During that time, please take care of that child's mental well-being, I requested. Leave it to me. I'll take care of her perfectly, Hannah responded. Years later, the group from that farewell party got together again for a reunion. It was like an alumni meeting, which we held regularly, but this one was a bit special. We were kicked out of the pub at last call, but continued talking outside until after midnight. It was then that I was asked to do something. I had deleted Kent's contacts from my phone, but one of our groups still had it and arranged for me to meet Kent through her. That was the favor I was asked. Long time no see, he smiled condescendingly. There was no awkwardness. So, what's Misty up to now? At the cafe where we met, Kent ordered a coffee. He's going to dump a ridiculous amount of sugar in it, right? I know him too well. I thought about it, but was annoyed at myself for remembering such things. While watching him drink his overly sweet coffee. Still in a bottom-tier job? Well, I guess it can't be helped if you're still a practical nurse, Kent said. I sipped my tea without sugar or milk. Even after all these years, his talk of bottom-tier jobs irritated me. Is there really a bottom or top in professions? I thought the same when I broke up with Kent, but people like him relieve stress by looking down on others. They belittle those they consider beneath them. Just watch, I'll crush him. I'll make him pay for everything. I downed my tea, and as I looked at the empty cup, I switched into battle mode. I'll shake up and overturn his value system today. I put the empty cup down with a deliberate clatter, and looked Kent straight in the face, ready to fire back. What? What are you talking about? My salary now exceeds $300,000, you know. What? Kent froze, his face still twisted in the mocking smile from before. I began to tell him what happened after we broke up. You know, just before I left Yale New Haven Hospital, a girl came in with stitches on her face from an accident. She had broken bones too, but meeting her changed my life. I don't get it. I felt like I could see question marks popping up over Kent's head. But I continued my story undeterred. That girl cried every day and night because of her scars. She was underage and her parents were resistant to plastic surgery. She had liked a boy, but now she felt everything had turned dark in an instant. It's typical for a teenage girl. I never felt so grateful to be a nurse. My knowledge in nursing, like understanding bone structure, was crucial. I taught her how to apply foundation. Green concealer can hide redness. Shadows here, highlights there, can bring out the contours of the bones. It was rehabilitation makeup. She brightened up so much. Makeup can really change a person. Seeing that made me so happy. Coincidentally, my next job was in emergency nursing, where I met many people suddenly injured in accidents. I taught them how to hide scars on their faces and arms. It was especially appreciated by women and mothers, and I found my calling there. While nursing, I also studied makeup. After our engagement ended and I was a single with savings, I opened my own rehabilitation makeup studio. It's not about healing wounds, but offering a way of life that embraces them. Hey, wait, so you're saying you're my rival now in the beauty business? Rival? I laughed mockingly. A rival would mean you have real skills in cosmetic surgery and are successful, right? What? Kent looked taken aback. Unfortunately, we can't be rivals, not with your clinic. I tapped on my mobile phone, showing him Google reviews. Kent's cosmetic surgery clinic was filled with negative reviews like, they only pointed out my flaws, overpriced, and the procedures weren't impressive. In contrast, my studio received only praises with comments like, "It made me feel positive," and "I'm not bothered by my scar anymore." I think this will hit you like a body blow. As Ken struggled to respond, I unleashed a verbal barrage. "I've heard from clients who came to me from you. You suggested expensive procedures to people who pointed out other flaws they had. Low nose, thin lips, wrinkled skin. And then upsold them on additional surgeries, adding those to their bills unasked. Well, it's their choice whether to get the procedures or not." Exactly, it's their choice. And that's why they end up coming to me instead. My makeup studio isn't just for rehabilitation makeup. I do regular makeup too, like anti-aging. Especially this review was significant. I pointed out one of the many critical reviews on my phone. "This surgery made my buttocks uneven. This patient is currently visiting my studio." What? Ken's face turned pale. "That person, they're suing us now, right?" He blurted out before I even had to say anything. It saved me the trouble of explaining. "Yes, they are suing. But I don't just do makeup. I've also set up a gym with the funds I've accumulated, doing a total beauty production. This person came to me very depressed, but through working out and building muscle at the gym, their body line has improved and they're experiencing small victories. Their mental state has become much more positive. So, a clinic being sued for incompetence can't really be a rival to my studio, right? You should stop being so arrogant with your bottom-tier skills." I emphasized the word bottom tier deliberately. "Bottom tier?" Before he could retort. That term, bottom tier skills, came from a client at the gym about you. Ken's lips twitched and he fell silent. I wonder how it feels to be hit with the word bottom tier. I straightened my back and looked down at him deliberately. Amidst this, my mobile phone rang. The verdict is in. It was from Hannah. After hearing the details and hanging up. "There's another piece of news today. The results are in." I informed Kat with an expressionless face. What results?" Ken asked back, visibly scared. He was clearly frightened. It was pitiful. "You don't know anything, do you?" I laughed. "Your wife didn't tell you anything?" "My wife? What about her?" "So, about those remarks, practical nurses should pick up garbage, and practical nurses are slaves? That's a problem, right? Apparently, you've been sued by the Federal Labor Department." "What?" "You're getting disciplined and fired. I'd look forward to it if I were you." I placed the money for my drink on the table and smiled at Kent, who was dripping cold sweat. By now, the income gap between us from when we were dating has probably reversed, and even widened. In the nursing world, news spreads fast. Your wife, she won't be able to find a job again, especially after doing something like that at a big hospital like Yale New Haven. She's done. Kent, seemingly in disbelief. "That can't be." He muttered under his breath, sweating even more. "Today, I came here as part of a plan made by all the practical nurses you and your wife look down upon. I wanted to see the face of Kara's proud husband, who married an elite doctor, because she's a registered nurse, upon hearing today's verdict. Think it's vindictive, but that's exactly what those of us who have been belittled by you both want to do." That's... Thought you were part of the privileged class loved by money, did you? The husband laughed at those he considered bottom tier, only to be surpassed by them, and the wife ridiculed them, only to be destroyed by them. How does it feel now? I said this as I was leaving. Also, you might not have noticed inside the building, but my studio is just 20 meters from your cosmetic surgery clinic. I've also set up a gym nearby, so when your clinic fails, I'll buy the place. That's likely to happen soon. Kent looked utterly shocked. As I had predicted, Kent's cosmetic clinic soon went out of business. I had seen the negative reviews and heard from clients who considered his clinic before coming to mine. I put a yoga studio in the clinic's former location. I heard Kara was fired after being sued by the Federal Labor Department. When I went to inspect the site for the yoga studio design, I ran into Ken and Kara. They were probably there to sigh over the remains. When Kent saw me, "Long time no see. Congratulations on expanding with a yoga studio," he said. "You don't have to offer congratulations if you don't mean it," I replied coldly. Then, "Hey, you're expanding your business, right? Why don't you start a cosmetic clinic too? Then I could..." Before he could finish, "I have no interest in hiring an incompetent doctor," I cut him off sharply. "Then at least take me," as Kara started to say. "I don't need staff who lack teamwork and look down on others." I dismissed her outright. "Sorry, but I can't have a constructive conversation in the presence of the former owners," I told the real estate agent who accompanied me, and they escorted Kent and Kara out. Thus, I successfully opened a yoga studio near my makeup studio. Several years later, I attended a wedding. But it wasn't my wedding. It was the wedding of the girl who had gotten facial stitches in an accident just before I left Yale New Haven Hospital. "Thank you. I became positive because of you, Misty. People say my scar is hardly noticeable unless mentioned, and he loves me even without makeup." She read a letter. "Congratulations. Truly congratulations." I shed tears. Life isn't for those who laugh looking down. It's for those striving upwards. I will continue to work, supporting those who want to face forward and look up.